Welcome to Wildlife Outdoors with your host, Russell and Jose. If you have a passion for conservation of the outdoors, or you're enjoying a calming hike in the mountains, an exhilarating kayak trip on the river, feeling a fish on the end of your line, cooking on an open flame in a primitive campsite, or stalking big game, just waiting for the perfect shot, you're in the right place. So put on your boots and polarized sunglasses and come along for the ride.
Welcome back to another episode of Wildlife Outdoors. Today we are joined by the president of the Texas Hill Country Fly Fishers, Jim Hines. So we're going to talk a little bit about some events going on. I'm sure everybody knows about the floods in Central Texas and the Hill Country area, and he's a Hill Country local. So figured we'd bring him on, talk some fly fishing, talk about some of the events that are going down and how people can help. So welcome, Jim. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. I'm happy to have you on. So I guess we could start off kind of light before we dig into anything too heavy. So you're the president of the Texas Hill Country Fly Fishers. How long you been in that position for?
I just took this position about 4 months ago. Our previous president was also a local, actually lived down in Bernie, Jeff Schrader, and he got relocated to New Mexico or Arizona. So they asked me to step up to take over as president. So before that, I spent 3 years as the events and outings chairman for the club.
Nice.
So we've had a lot of turnover in the board, but we finally have the board set in place now.
That's awesome. So what is the club about? What are a lot of the things you do as a club? Do you guys do events and, public outreach, or what's kind of the scope of stuff that y'all manage?
Well, pretty much that. We, obviously our charter is really about educating people on fly fishing and, trying to, teach as much as possible. A couple of years ago, I sat down with another member and we saw there was a gap in mentoring. So people move to Kerrville and somebody gives them a fly rod and they say, well, okay, I have this thing. I don't know what to do with it. Where do I go? How do I use it? What do I do with it? Or they're an experienced fly fisherman and they move to Kerrville or the surrounding area. And they say, well, okay, I know how to fly fish, but I don't know where to go. What can we do? It's like any sport like this that's competitive. And I'm not a real competitive person when it comes to that sort of thing. Never been much of a tournament guy, but you get some people that are like, oh, it's easy. Just get a road map and find where the road crosses the river. It's not quite that easy in the Texas Hill Country because of, private land and access and county road versus state road. There's a lot of gray areas there. So what we did is we put together a mentoring program where somebody can go to our website, hit a button, they can draft an email and say, hey, I'm new to the area, want a fishing buddy. And we'll pair them up with somebody from the club. And they don't have to be a member. They can just be anybody. And we've had some people that are just, I'm going to be up there on vacation for a couple of days. Where should I fish? It's like, I'll tell you what, we'll pair you up with somebody, and they can take and show you a couple of crossings you can fish at. And so we have that program in place. We try to work with the Boy Scouts when we can. We've worked with them to develop a merit badge program. We've had a couple of scouts in the last year or so go through the merit badge program with the scouts, with the assistance of some of our club members. We also have so we have a casting program. So we have a casting instructor that's working towards his FFI certification. Two of the club members are working towards FFI certification. And they're both heading up the local chapter of the Good Flies. So several of the club members are heavily involved in Good Flies. And y'all know Gabe Avalos. He's a member of our club, and he is the regional director for Real Recovery. So our club also supports Real Recovery in addition to Good Flies. So a lot of our members work with them. Then we also do, we partake in the river cleanup here in Kerrville every year, the URGA, Upper UGRE, Upper Guadalupe River Authority, does a annual cleanup. So we go down and we assist with that. We, where we can. We work with some of the camps, some of the summer camps around on the various creeks around here. We've gone in and done some work rebuilding some bridges after we had a small flood last year. Not anything like this, but it was just more of an inconvenience. So we went in and did some cleanup, and we rebuilt a footbridge, that sort of thing. And then we host fly tying and we host casting events once a month where we we reach out and say, hey, you don't have to be a member. Just come on down. You want to learn how to tie flies? We'll tie flies. And we're expanding that to kids now. So we've got a kids program going within fly tying. So we're just trying to get the word out. Hey, and we're also associated, a couple of our members are associated with Project Healing Waters for veterans. So, some of our members work with that as well. So we have a very diverse group. We have a lot of young members, not enough young members. We need more young members, but a lot of guys in their, I think we would consider middle age, and then a lot of the older guys, they're kind of probably on their downhill side of fly fishing that like to come for the fellowship, and and they're heavily involved in the teaching part of it. So it's kind of the older guys teaching the new kids coming in, and we're trying to grow our women's group a little bit. So it's we just try to reach everybody in the community. Once a year, for the last several years, we have in October, the second weekend in October, we have an event called Oktoberfish. We're very creative in that name, Oktoberfish. So it's our fundraiser. COVID took a little bit of a hit, struggled getting back things. The whole world has changed since COVID in regards to how, fundraisers are done. We did one here last year. We've had it in various locations, whether it be Junction or Fredericksburg or move over here to Kerrville. The club's talking about what are we going to do this year, because we're coming up on October before we know it. So the board's trying to figure out, what do we do this year? How should we do it this year? But that's generally trying to get fly fishermen to come in. It's almost like a mini trade show. We have try to get rod manufacturers in. We have guides that come in and do talks. We have, guides that come in and do, seminars on here's how you catch. Here's how we fish for trout, or here's how locally in the Guad, or here's how we fish for carp, and things like that. And then we have some of the rod builders will come in and build rods, and a bunch of fly tyers will come in, and a lot of the FFI guys will come in, and then we'll have Parks and Wildlife out there. So we have a good cross section of people. But this year we might change it up this year, obviously for obvious reasons, because of what's going on in the direct community here. We probably take a different approach this year. We're still working on the details on that thing. But that's basically us in a nutshell. We've been a club since it started out. The original, I guess, the founding chapter of the club is a little over 30 years old.
Oh, wow.
A couple of local fly fishermen would see each other in the airport as they were flying places, and they'd have fly rods with them. And next thing you know, they started a club, and then there was a club in Fredericksburg and one in Kerrville. And then the one in Kerrville was kind of winding down, and they got together and merged and rebranded itself as the Texas Hill Country Fly Fishers, and it's been that way since just before COVID. So we have about 100, and I think last count, 138 members. Some of them are in Georgetown, a lot of them Kerrville, Fredericksburg, and the surrounding areas, a lot out of San Antonio, Georgetown, Austin, got a few out of Houston, places like that. And then our mailing list, last I checked, we have a mailing list out there that we probably have over 1,500 people on the mailing list that gets, communication. We don't discriminate. So if you sign up on our mailing list, you get all the information. You find out when all the meetings are. You get to hear, every event that we're doing, and everybody's invited to all the events.
That's awesome.
So that's basically
to say y'all are involved in the community quite a bit. Huh?
Yes, we try to be heavily involved, and we always look at an opportunity to, what can we do to help the community?
Yeah. And that's one thing that when I was talking to Gabe about is he said you'd be the guy to talk to if we wanted to get information about how the community is over there. You know, some people that are boots in the ground, people that are local, people that are out there assisting, or that know people that are. And so
Sure.
I'm glad he put us in touch with you. And when you and I talked a couple of days ago to kind of get a bearing on what we're going to talk about, I got a good vibe from it. So I'm excited for this conversation. So for those of the people that don't know exactly what's going on, all they've seen is a headline that there was a flood in Texas. What more can you give about that? What have you seen? What have you experienced being out there and local?
Okay, so basically everybody knows that this part of Texas has been in a drought for 6 or 7 years or longer. It depends on how you classify a drought, but it's effectively 6 or 7 years. The Guadalupe River forms in two places. There's the North Fork of the Guadalupe, which forms up near up off FM 1340, about 10 miles. It's about 11 miles outside of Hunt, Texas, and then the South Fork starts. It runs parallel to Highway 39, and it's probably 10 or 12 miles. The headwaters of it's probably 10 or 12 miles out. Both of them flow and converge into what we all know as the Guadalupe River in Hunt. So it's like almost like a little point where the two rivers come together. The Guadalupe takes over. Hunt's right there on that little point. Hunt has been there since, it's in one form or another, probably well over 100 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's an unincorporated community. They have a volunteer fire station. Up until recently had a post office. They have a place there called the Hunt Store. The Hunt Store has been there in a couple of different locations. My wife was born and raised in Kerrville. Her family's fourth generation. They settled out near the headwaters of the North Fork of the Guadalupe in the mid-1920s. So she's got history there. She's been going out there since she was a kid. And she has very fond memories, as do I, for the last 25 years, going out to the Hunt Store and listening to music, having a great burger. They serve, hands down, the best homemade brownies you've ever had in your life, bar none. I dare you to find one different or one better. So what happened is both of these, both the North Fork and the South Fork there's a series of dams, low water crossings that have been put in over the last 100 and something years to, create ponds, or little lake areas, I guess, for lack of a better word, to draw water out of, to live, because there's still a lot of people along the North Fork and the South Fork that pull water out of the river to drink, to use in their homes. I mean, they have generations, as we do. We don't do it, but we still have a generations old, water permit to pull water out of the North Fork of the river. But they're all the riverbed is all limestone, solid limestone. It gets silted over, but that gets cleaned out over the years. So both of those rivers, forks of the river, run pretty low, pretty shallow, with a series of pools down through there, and low water crossings in multiple locations. I think in the 10 miles between our property and Hunt, I think there's probably 6 low water crossings that you go over. And what happened that night, which was a bit unique, is the North Fork up near the headwaters had about 12 inches of rain in less than 6 hours. The South Fork, near their headwaters, out near where we've all seen the stuff about Camp Majestic, got about 12 inches of rain in less than 6 hours. So what happened is, at the headwaters up there, they had so much rain so fast. And again, it's a river, so the rivers are in the bottom, so there's hills and cliffs on both sides, and everything drains downhill to the river. So all this 12 inches of rain just, converged on both rivers at one time, and then they started heading down. And then they both converged in Hunt at almost the same time. And then that's when it just basically washed across that point in Hunt, took out the post office. It's gone. The building no longer is there. It washed all the exterior walls out of the Hunt store. And there's, a lot of pretty much everything on the river side there got washed out. And then that's when it converged into what we know as the Guadalupe River, and it headed downstream. So they were saying that the water rose between 26 and 30 feet in less than an hour.
Yeah.
Jeez. And I mean, that's a lot of water. I mean, they were talking about the amount of water, trillions of gallons of water that, came down and went down the river. So then when it gets into the river right there at Hunt, there's a lot of river, what we would call, what in most places around the country, you'd call it river bottom. So it's, flat next to the river. A lot of stuff had been built there over the last few years that wasn't there 20 years ago, a lot of new build stuff. The older stuff, would be built, a little higher up, but still real close to the river because floods are not unusual around here. It happens a lot. So, maybe not so much in the last, 5 or 6 years, but over the generations, there's a lot of big floods around here. So the water headed down the main channel of the Guadalupe River and ripping out cypress trees that were 5-6 feet in diameter at the base. It's unbelievable, the power of water, obviously. So the next town it gets to, which is just a few miles away, is the town of Ingram. And it flooded all of Ingram. And then you had coming up from the northwest above Ingram was Johnson Creek. So Johnson Creek is a beautiful, in most cases, is absolutely gin clear, fantastic fishery for Guadalupe bass and largemouth bass, and it flooded and it converged into Kerrville, into the Guadalupe River in Kerrville about the same time that the North and South Fork combined and hit Ingram. So all that comes in together, and then it just blows through Kerrville. So on that morning when we the funny thing of it was that the day before, the week before, my wife and I had been out at our place out there, and it's riverfront property, but we're high enough up on the hill that we're not worried about anything. We'd been out there for a week just lounging around. I'd been fishing down in the river almost, all the time. 3 of us from the club got together, went and fished one of my little favorite holes the day before. We had a great time. We went home. We decided, well, we'll go home. We went home. No real issues. We woke up the next morning. A friend of mine called and said, "Oh my God, turn TV on. You're not going to believe what you're going to see." And that's what we saw. So we jumped in the truck and went down to the river to see if we could get across if we needed to. And the water they were expecting it to crest in Kerrville at about 32, 33 feet, which would have crossed over all 3 major bridges in Kerrville to get to the south side of the river. It didn't. It crested about 29 feet, which is a lot, but it didn't. Yeah. It didn't go over the bridges. But if you go back to the 1987 or 88 flood, it did go over it went over the bridges. One of the bridges didn't exist. The other one, the main bridge, it went over the bridge. But you could literally see, we could stand there's an observation platform there on the side, and we could literally stand there and watch these just massive trees washing down the river. And you couldn't help but stand there and think, it's never going to be the same, or not in our lifetime. Yeah. These will, the trees will grow back, and things will happen, and it'll get better. But as we remember it and as we love it, it's going to always look differently. And now that the water's down, you can see where they have the city's done a fantastic job in the park area down there along the river, where they put in concrete walkways, so that it's called the River Trail, and it covers 3 or 4 miles. So my wife and I go down there all the time, and we walk the river trail, in the mornings before it gets hot. It's all great, but now because it's 90% of it is shaded, but now all the trees are gone. So all these big, massive trees have been washed away, and the ones that are still standing, the upstream side of these trees are stripped right down to the bare meat of the tree, but the downstream side will still have the bark on it. It's weird. It kind of makes you think and get a better appreciation for the power of water. So then it goes through Kerrville, and then it hits, the next little town is Center Point. And I've not been to Center Point because, they've got enough going on down there. They don't need a bunch of looky-loos going down there. So, but I do have some friends that have been involved down there. So they say it's just, they got hit even harder, and then it gets down to Comfort, and that's when it goes under I-10 and just heads on down and runs into the lake, which I think raised the lake level down there 6 feet in a couple of days.
Oh, wow.
So they needed the water, but they didn't need it at this cost.
Right. Wow. That's crazy. So go ahead.
A lot of the people around here, as my grandfather used to say, my grandfather's from South Georgia, and he'd say, son, when I grew up, people, they were hardy stock. We just figured out what we needed to do and do it. And I would say that very well describes the people of Kerr County. You talk to a lot of these people, you get to know them, and they've been here for generations. There's a lot of new people here, don't get me wrong. But, a lot of the older people that have been here for multiple generations, they're like, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll rebuild. No problem.
Yeah.
I think and I do believe the people around here are of hardy stock, and they're just like, they'll just pull themselves up by the bootstraps and get on with it. And you see that every day around here with, what people are doing to clean up where they can, because obviously they're still in search and rescue and recovery mode. So, they have to, the state and the federal government has to be allowed to get in and do that before, the next wave of people can come in and start really cleaning up so that they can just, rebuild and go on.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at some of these camps, like some of these camps have been there for over 100 years. And it's like, okay, well, they've been there before. This is not the first time it's happened. The loss of life is devastating. It really, upsets my wife and I, because we've got grandkids that are the age of some of these, children that got killed. And, you feel for them, you feel for the families, because some of these people are multiple generations going to some of these camps out here. And we pass these camps every time we go out to our place, or if we go fishing on one of the rivers, we pass these camps. We see them, we know them, they wave, we wave, stuff like that. So it's, everybody knows everybody, and they may not know their name, but they walk into the local coffee shop around here and they say, okay, yeah, I know that person over there. He works out at so-and-so, or, she's the part owner of that camp out there, or something like that. So, it's a big community, but it's a small community as well. And people know each other, and people are just, they're asking, what can we do to help? What do you need? No questions asked.
That's why we have you here. Yeah. That's why we have you on here, to try to help us steer people in the right direction.
Sure.
And you touched on it a little bit earlier. Is you said obviously there's still a lot of search and rescue and recovery going on, and that has to happen first. They're not just going to let anybody show up with a chainsaw and help out, because we're not quite to that point yet.
Yes.
Which is important to know, because there are some people that will drive hours to come help, which, I mean, hats
Absolutely.
off to them. That's amazing. But we're not quite there, because unfortunately there are still, I think I pulled the statistics on her. There's over 160 people that are still missing that they haven't found.
The thing I saw this afternoon, they're saying they think 160 to 165. They're not sure. I mean, some of I don't know what the total death count is now. I didn't watch it this afternoon. Today was kind of a busy day, but well over, it's over 100. And of that, a subset of that, they haven't even identified who they are yet. So they don't, they're still trying to, make all the identifications so they can notify the, the next of kin. So, there's the respect for that. So, a lot of people want to get in and, I've had people say, hey, can we come down and help? It's like, there's going to be a time for that. Now's not the time. We've been told, and our church has been told, my wife and I are heavily involved in our local church, one of our local churches. There's a lot of churches around Kerr, very religious community. I mean, if you know anything about Kerr County, I bet there's, in Kerr, Illinois, I bet there's 25 churches, which is great. I think that's fantastic. My wife and I'll just put a shameless plug out there. We're members of the Southern Oaks Baptist Church. Been there for 40 years, same pastor for 40 years. And, what they're being told is that we're probably, now, again, this is what I've heard, what I've been told, that we're probably a week, possibly 2 away from the county saying, okay, we can go in and really start cleaning up because, they're still systematically going up. In fact, I saw them doing it yesterday. They're still have heavy wreckers down on the river pulling vehicles out of the riverbed and checking, for bodies. And they're asking people. They have a countywide burn ban on right now, so you can't burn brush piles or anything like that. And there's a total ban on anything being burned within, I think, a half a mile of the river. And what they want to make sure is that every brush pile gets checked by the authorities looking for, people. Yeah. So, so there's always, always grew up all over the South. So, there's a lot, always, hurricanes and tornadoes. So, I remember when I was a kid, my father went, we were in South Louisiana. My father went after Camille hit, and I remember him going in 68 or 69 and doing recovery work. But now they don't, obviously they have trained people to do that, and they don't need, they've got enough infrastructure now to do that sort of stuff. So it's different than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. Yeah. So they're in the middle of doing that now. Right now, I know our church set up almost immediately, and it mobilized kind of a collection, so to speak. So we've been working. My wife probably more organization and more of the. I just lift the boxes or move the water, or go get my trailer and haul stuff to the dump, or whatever, that sort of stuff. And she's doing the more smart stuff in the background organization. Yeah. But they're setting up, clothing, toiletries, water, you name it, anything people would need if they have absolutely nothing. Our church is basically we've set it up as like a store. You come in, take this box here, go around, pick what you need, free of charge, and you can go. We're collecting cash that'll be turned into gift cards. So H-E-B gift cards, specifically in Walmart gift cards, and that they can be given to people when the time, as they start coming in, and we don't have what you need. Here's a gift card. Yeah. And we have a system set up where if people, need something, but they have no way to get to it, they can't come to us. So we have a process online, and it's very simple to use. They can go online, or they can call, and our church we have people on staff. They'll set everything up, and then we'll load stuff up in a vehicle, and we'll take it to you. Tell us where you are. What do you need? You can't come to us. We'll come to you. So there's a lot of that going on, and we're not the only church doing that sort of stuff. What I've been told in the last couple of days is, I know for a fact our church is not. I've heard that most of the churches, along with the Salvation Army, is basically asked people to not bring any more donations. Everybody's saturated because the community and the surrounding communities, San Antonio, Austin, people have been bringing stuff, and it's fantastic. They're bringing stuff that we need, but we've had to bring in a 40-foot high cube shipping container to store stuff in. Overflow for the overflow. We've got so much stuff. and we'll use it. We're in this for the long haul. The church is in it. Everybody's in it for the long haul around here. We know it's going to take months and months to get everybody back on their feet, and help get everybody the help that they need. Of course, there's a lot of foundations around the hill country here that are taking money, and there'll be there's money going to be available to help fix up people's homes as they need it, because I'm sure a lot of these homes are not going to be insured or will potentially be underinsured. And that's again, my opinion. Kind of knowing how the situation is in a lot of places. Some of these, some people are just going to be underinsured because, as y'all know, as homeowners, insurance is expensive. And sometimes you have to make a hard decision in life. But there's a lot of fundraising going on and that sort of stuff to help people. So they're looking at the short term. What do we need now? And I think what we're going to see in the next couple of weeks from people that I've talked to, that what we're going to see is we're going to need they're going to need things like brooms and shovels and Clorox and Lysol and rubber gloves and trash bags, things like that. Because the next phase of the first phase is like, oh my God, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I don't have water. I don't have anything. We can help you with that. The next phase is going to be, oh my gosh, I need to clean this up, but I don't know what to do. Well, there's the First Baptist Church in Kerrville already has a team set up where they can go help as the county releases these places. They can go help people clean up. It's like, okay, we got to get all this stuff out of here piled up so then the city can come get it, or the county can come get it and haul it off, because the county's already contracted with actually a friend of mine, business owner here, owns an excavating business, and they contracted with, I don't know, I'm sure that he's probably, donating all this. So they've already identified burn sites, adjacent to Highway 27, where they can just start trucking in all this heavy debris that's going to be burned and just burn it, because there's no place else to put it. So this will just take time. It'll take a lot of time and a lot of months before they do that. And then, then the next phase, in my opinion, this is, I see this generally as a 3-phase type thing. First thing is like, what do I need right now? I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to turn. I don't have a shirt to wear. Where do I get it? The second phase is, okay, I need help cleaning up and trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Then the next phase is like, how do we rebuild it? Where do I get the money? And a lot of the foundations around Kerrville, there's the Hunt Preservation Society. I know we're going to talk about charitable organizations, but there's the Hunt Preservation Society, the Hill Country Community Foundation, that sort of thing. And they're nonprofits. They take in money and they work to give out money to help rebuild the river and the river areas and people's homes where they don't have the funds, have the monetary support to be able to do it. So I think we're in the beginning. We're in the first stage, and we expect next week is the heavy week when we'll start seeing people coming in. We've already had people coming in. We're trying to get it set up, and there's people coming in. Hey, I've heard I can get toiletries here. Come on in. We'll dig through the box with you and figure out where it's at, and help you load it in your car.
So as of right now, we're filming this the second week of July. What people need now is not they're not really going to be going out there to be assisting in cleanup. So what exactly do you see that the community needs right now? Are they needing financial help? Are they needing goods? You said that, a lot of places aren't necessarily wanting to receive much more goods because they don't have a place to store them.
There's just no place to store them. So I think now, as we sit here right now, for the foreseeable future, but specifically starting now for the next week for sure, is going to be things like monetary.
I see.
Because HEB started in Kerrville in 1905, so they've been here 120 years, and I mean they brought in their disaster relief, crew from San Antonio, about 4 or 5 tractor trailer loads of stuff. Mobile cook kitchens, mobile relief, trailer where they're sitting there, talking to people. This is what we can help you do. The HEB butt foundation and camp is right up on 39. They're not too far up the river. So they're here in force. They'll be here forever. I think I just read in the paper where they donated themselves, HEB donated, the corporation donated $5 million to the river recovery. So I think in the short term, what I've been telling people that I talk to is money. Find some place to donate money. You know, a lot of people said, "Hey, just tell me what you need. We'll load it up. You know, what do you think the church needs, or what do you think this group needs? We'll load it up in the truck and we'll bring it up to you." It's like, we don't have any room for it. Nobody has room for it at this time. Right now, it's money, and you know, money doesn't fix everything, but money will fix a lot of things in a situation like this, because we may not have in you know, the other churches and Salvation Army, places like that, may not have specifically what you need, but if you can hand them a gift card, then they can go get what they need. And that's what we're trying to do. So I think at this time, probably monetary donations, things like that.
I see. So I have a couple that I've pulled up. So the Kerrville Strong GoFundMe is out there. So I've also seen there's plenty of other like local family GoFundMes where people have lost a loved one or still searching for a loved one. There's a lot of local ones like that.
But
the two that I found that seem to be more of a widespread, not a singular family, which nothing like, if you want to help a family, by all means do it. But Kerrville Strong has a GoFundMe out there. And then there's also Boots on the Ground Hill Country Flood Relief. And those are two big ones that seem to be a little bit more broad. Those are two big ones.
There's the Hunt Preservation Society, which started in, I think 2002, I believe.
Okay.
So it was, you know, it's been in place 25 years or longer. And they normally collect, you know, they're a nonprofit, been around for years, and they collect money to help different things. And they donate, or they give away scholarships for kids, you know, going to the local school, that sort of thing. But they're also now, they've created a category for flood relief, and they've gone on record as saying, we're going to rebuild our community. We're going to rebuild. They got together a bunch of years ago and bought 5 acres right there in the center, and they hold events there, and they're going to rebuild that. They're going to help rebuild. They're going to do some donations to help rebuild the Hunt store, even the post office, which is a federal issue. But they said, hey, we need our post office back. We want to help. So there's that. And then there's another one that, and as I understand it, everybody I've ever talked to about the Hunt Preservation Society is that they, 100% of the money goes to Hunt. So there's no operating expenses, so to speak. The other one is Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country. They're more hill country, you know, wide. Mm-hmm. They also have a Kerr County Flood Relief Fund that they've opened up and are collecting money for, and they are prepared to help everything in Kerr County affected by the flood from Hunt all the way down to Center Point. So
awesome.
Their plan is to help, you know, do the same thing, you know, donations where, you know, make donations to people to help rebuild where they don't have the funds to do it, you know, help rebuild some of the public spaces, you know, but the main thing that all these organizations are looking at is how do we help the people first? We'll worry about the, you know, the public areas, you know, when the time comes, but rest assured, They're saying we're going to do it all.
Yeah.
So that's two awesome. That I know. I know that my wife and I personally, you know, have donated to the Texas Hill Country Community Foundation. We've donated money there. We've obviously donated money to our church, Southern Oaks Church. The Texas Hill Country Fly Fishers, the board got together and, you know, real quick the other day and decided, well, you know, we want to donate. The first place that we could come up with was, and I wasn't, to make sure there was total transparency, I wasn't involved in this part of the conversation, but they decided let's donate the money to the church because we know, you know, we can take this money, we can go get gift cards, we can give it to them. And I actually brought it up there to them, and Gabe Avalos and his friends donated, you know, a bunch of gift cards. And I took them up there, and they were very appreciative, and they've already gone to people that are in absolute need. So they're going out as fast as they're coming in.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I put links in the description for if anybody that's listening feels so inclined to help.
Sure.
I'll have links to multiple things in the description. But yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of help that needs to be there, but donations, monetary seem to be more beneficial at this point in time. Rather
at this point, yeah, I think
because just nowhere to store them.
Sure. And I think that'll change over time. We were at the church the other day, and one of the car dealerships from San Antonio, they just happened to show up one day, and they had a brand new Suburban, absolutely cram-packed full with brand new stuff, not old stuff, this is brand new. They literally went and spent a ton of money, and they said, we don't know what to do with it. And I said, well, you know what? Let's take it. And they said, well, we don't need the water. We got plenty of water. So we have plenty of water now, but I guarantee you in 2 weeks, we're going to wish we had this water. Take it. Yeah. I said, you know what? If we don't have room for it, I'll take it home and I'll put it in my garage. Yeah. We'll make room for it. We'll figure it out. And we're glad we did, because we're going through this stuff. And it's only been a couple of days, and we're going through this stuff pretty good. So luckily we have a good inventory on hand. And so when we're expecting next week for it to really get busy as far as donations, people coming in looking for, I'll say donations, but people coming in and picking up things. So that'll start. And it's supposed to be hot, fairly warm over the next couple of weeks with with not much chance of rain. So that means it's going to be hot. That means it's going to be humid. And that means that, people, even first responders, are going to need things like water and hygiene products, and we're there to help all of them. I mean, we've been delivering stuff as fast as we can get it out, unloaded out of people's vehicles and sorted. We're loading it back in somebody else's vehicle to go take to donate somewhere else. Yeah. We took, I think there's a local business here that I'll plug named Grape Juice. They're on the bluff overlooking the river and on Water Street. And they are a kind of a wine bar, brewery, restaurant type thing. And the food is fantastic. My wife and I eat there, fairly regularly. And they never told anybody about it. I think the first day they made, 300 sandwiches for first responders. And they went on social media and said, we have 200 pounds of a salad, or not salad, turkey salad or something like that, and like 200 pounds of this and 200 pounds of that. We've got 300 sandwiches made, and we're going to continue to make them until they tell us don't make any more. Nobody asked them to do it. Wow. They're doing it on their own. They hadn't asked for a penny, so we're doing it out of our own pocket. We're not charging anybody anything. And just so you know, they said, just so you know, if you come to the restaurant, your ability to get served is not being affected by us doing this. So there's a lot of companies, a lot of restaurants around town that have done that. And I think we'll see that moving forward for a long time. And there's been a lot of people, coming in. I don't care where you go. There's almost always somebody that has a big trailer mounted barbecue pit that's cooking up something and feeding first responders, or just feeding anybody that, a friend of mine has a business down in Centerpoint, and he said, we just set up a table out there the other day, handing out sandwiches and bottles of water. And he said they were coming in from everywhere getting them, and we're trying to find people to help us keep that going. Yeah. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of good stuff here. And I think for the most part, what people need more than anything right now, and nobody's able to provide, is answers. Yeah. Where's my loved one? What do I do now? That sort of thing. And, that just, it just kills me, because when you talk to people like that, it's like, I don't know what to tell you. You have to have faith. You have to have faith in God. It's going to work. We're going to get through this. We will.
That's one thing. We don't always have the answers, and we're
absolutely
not always going to have an understanding. But having faith actually, goes a long way, and having others that are there for you and to support you and to pray for you. And just be a support system, which it sounds like the community there is very strong. And so it sounds like there is a good support system there.
There is.
And there's not one answer, but there may be many different smaller answers that may be, able to assist. And I know, I read recently that that FEMA's been activated there. So people that are stressing about financial things or how they're going to pay for temporary housing, or they're stressing about financial needs in the future. If you're listening to this and you're from that area and you've been affected, FEMA is available to you, and there's public funds available as well. So
FEMA has been activated. The governor's been very vocal. He's been here, I don't know how many times in the last few days, last week or whatever, that, he's been here and saying that, we're here forever. We're here for the long haul. And if you need something, we're going to make sure you get it. And, they've even, there was even something said about, it takes if it was to take a couple of days to activate FEMA, we'll fill the gap. Don't worry about it. We're going to make this happen. And I've not heard, now, again, I'm not talking to everybody in town, but when you do talk to people, it seems like everybody's, for the most part, is getting what they need to get by for now. Now, that's not saying that everybody is, but I think for the most part, the city and the county, are helping people get by. I know the road department's already at the county highway department and TxDOT. They're already out there making sure that the bridges are safe and are open, and they're doing everything they can to keep things open. They've been out by our place out, 10 miles on the other side of Hunt, and checking everything out and said, we're just making a list of what needs to be done. It will, we're not going to get to it quick. We're going to get it fixed. Don't worry. Just, don't worry about it. So I think everybody's doing everything they physically can. Mm-hmm. And, the sheriff's department is, in my opinion, is second to none. They've been doing a fantastic job, as has the city police, as has Department of Public Safety. They're everywhere, and they're doing everything they can to help. Texas Parks and Wildlife, I can't see that they have any more game wardens anywhere but in Kerr County right now. These guys have been in the Forestry Service. These guys are just like nonstop. They're working shift work, just, doing everything they can to help everybody that needs help, searching for survivors, trying to do recoveries, that sort of stuff. Air National Guard was here. Coast Guard was here. All the helicopters were staged up, out at our local airport. And they were they were constantly in the air. I had to go out of town today. I came back, and I saw 2 Blackhawks fly in the river, and I saw 2 Chinooks flying up there, right around. So they're here. Everybody's here. I don't know. And the state has drones, special drones. And I guess if I could say one thing is that, the county has repeatedly asked for private drones not to be flown. And they've banned private drones. And just within the last couple of days, somebody was flying a private drone, and they flew it into a search helicopter. Nobody was hurt. Helicopter was able to successfully land with no issues, but it's out of commission until they can, reassess it. But, they're just begging people, that's not the help we need right now. We don't need drones. We don't need, that sort of stuff. And, occasionally, I'll see a drone here and there, and it's like, I don't know if it's state. I don't know if it's, federal or whoever, because I know that they do have the state and some of the federal organizations are flying drones looking for people. So the one thing I would say is, if people are, the people that listen, if you're local here, they don't need drones. They need, the state's got that well in hand, and I'd say there's no, I can honestly say there's no expense being spared. I mean, these guys, I think the first night they were driving back to wherever their home base was. And, Most of the churches are open up here. The high school, the junior high, places like that, they're all open up. And these people are, they're driving in, they work their shift, they go over there and they sleep on cots in the, in the schools and in the churches and stuff like that. So they're here, they're staying here. Yeah. They're not doing anything but, the hard work. So I can testify to that.
That's awesome. Well, it seems like the community is strong for sure. And even community in a whole, not even just a local community, but people all over the state, people all over the nation that are coming in to help. So, yeah, if anybody wants to help, there'll be links in the description. Before we start closing out, I'd like to close it on a little bit of a brighter note, happier note, and kind of give a nod to some of the companies that have been doing good things. And so you mentioned earlier, HEB. Everybody knows. Well, if you're from Texas, no store does more. That's one thing. I live in Arkansas. And
if you have never heard of if you have never heard of HEB, you have been living in a different state or under a rock somewhere.
Yeah, HEB is amazing. But like you mentioned earlier, they donated $5 million. They deployed supply trucks in partnership with the Red Cross. Local officials have served affected communities, so they're doing great things out there. USAA committed $500,000 in relief grants. Right. AT&T deployed mobile connectivity centers, charging gear, stuff like that to help people be able to communicate with their loved ones. Kendra Scott Foundation donated $300,000 from a jewelry sales event they did. Yep. Whataburger supplied meals to first responders and displaced residents. Home Depot pledged $250,000. The NFL Foundation and the Cowboys and Texans combined together to donate $1.5 million. The Houston Astros committed pledging $1 million toward both immediate relief and youth initiatives. Mm-hmm. The Houston Rockets, Dallas Mavericks, San Antonio Spurs, and the NBA jointly donated $2 million. So there's just a lot of sports, sports teams, the leagues, everything is coming together to help out. I know MLS, the Major League Soccer, so Austin FC, FC Dallas, Houston Dynamo, and Dash pledged $500,000 to flood relief. So there's a lot of things going on. Local Longhorn, Michael Taff, he teamed up with Pete Harry's, and 100% of profits from 36 locations go into that. Arch Manning, got together with the Kerr County flood relief. So there's a lot of things going on there. People coming together. So hats off to everybody that's helping in big ways like that.
I think Patrick Mahomes, who is obviously from Texas, him and his wife are both from East Texas. Mm-hmm. Patrick Mahomes went to Texas Tech. My wife went to Texas Tech. My stepson went to Texas Tech. I think he and his wife donated $1 million to the relief fund as well.
I think JJ Watt and his wife donated.
JJ Watt and his wife donated, a ton of money.
I think Jelly Roll even donated money.
Sorry?
Jelly Roll, the country artist, I think he donated money too.
He did.
Awesome.
I know that our previous club president, Jeff Schroeder, he works for a company called Green Bay Packaging, who's based out of Green Bay, Wisconsin, but they have a place here. They're all over the country. They do packaging and paper products and stuff like that. He called me the other day, hey, to check on how we were doing. Can we do anything? Our company wants to donate. Who's the best place to go to? So I gave him, the same information we talk about. So I suspect that they have a charitable foundation within their organization. And I expect that we'll be seeing some, donations from people like that as well. So there's a lot of people and a lot of companies from around the country that may or may not have a connection to the Texas Hill Country directly, that are donating money.
That's awesome. Well, that's some good news to end on.
Yeah,
also,
absolutely.
Jose has been working with some other local people that we know. We don't have too many details, but we are going to say that as Wildlife Outdoors, we are going to try to have some type of event coming up. We don't know what that's going to look like, whether it's going to be a 2-day event, a weekend, a fly tying night, something. We're going to try to get together with some other local people in the industry and try to get something going to donate as well. We do want to be 100% transparent, and 100% of the proceeds will go directly to Kerr County. So just keep your eyes out for that. We will have that on our social media, and we'll be putting that out and along with the people that we're going to be working with. And is there anything you want to share about that, Jose?
Well, I reached out to them not really on behalf of the podcast. It's just more of a kind of like just an idea that was, a couple things. So another guest that we had on previously, Chris Fleury, I initially saw that he had posted something about wanting to tie up some flies for a fly box that he wants to auction or raffle off, and the funds from that being donated to the relief efforts. And so I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey, man, I'd love to tie some stuff and contribute a little bit as well." And so he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I asked him pretty much like, are you just trying to keep it small or make it big, whatever. He's like, honestly, the more the better. So he's open to just, whoever wants to try and help contribute with that. You'd be more than happy to have that. But that kind of spurred an idea. There's a group. They would have some fly tying nights at a local brewery from time to time, and I happen to know some of the guys there. So I reached out to one of them, and I asked him if. Well, actually, let me backtrack. Before that, I reached out to a friend of mine. He works for a place called Pint House, and he's mentioned before trying to do some fly tying nights out there. So I reached out to him if it'd be possible to organize like a fly tying night where we can tie some flies for a box that we can also raffle off or whatever, and have some money go down that way, and then maybe he can convince the brewery and restaurant to donate some of the proceeds from whatever's bought there at that time to go down as well. Unfortunately, they've got some other things going on that we couldn't make that work for the fly tying part of it, but Pint House is actually doing something very similar to that. They're going to be donating at all locations part of the proceeds from their sales to the relief efforts. I think starting tomorrow, if I'm not
That's
mistaken. Could have
great.
the date wrong. Yeah, so it's really really cool. They're doing that on their own, and so I reached out to this other group, the one that I mentioned previously, and they're like, "Dude, that's a great idea. Let me reach out to some folks." And so as of now, it seems like we're going to try and hash something out. Not really like being that I know of. It's not really like not really so much a specific group that's wanting to do this, but rather just a group of people who are wanting to try and contribute in some way. We're
Hmm.
going to try and
Mhm.
and we're all like, we all kind of met through fly fishing. We're all big fly fishermen, so we want to try and do something like within that community, try and get together and do something like that going forward. We just don't know when or how we're going to go about it. Initially, the idea was like a fly tying night, but then it seems like it might be morphing into a fly tying event of some sort, or like a fly fishing event of some sort that we want to do.
Hmm.
It's just so like maybe have it for the general public to come in, and if they want to, tie some flies or hang out and maybe buy some beer or food or whatever, and maybe have some of the money go there. It'd be like I guess a more of an opportunity for more revenue to be generated if people are just passing by and like maybe they're intrigued and want to stop by and something like that. So we're trying to get that going. We haven't, like I said, it's an idea right now. But we're going to try and actually get something going with that here pretty soon, hopefully. And then aside from that, Russell and I know like as a podcast, he and I have talked about like what we can do to help. And so we're trying to figure it out. I think what I want to do is I've been getting into leatherworking a little bit. So I want to try and make a wallet that maybe we can raffle off or something, and maybe some flies and stuff to go along with it. Just something small, but just something that we can do to try and help out a little bit too. But again, Russell and I are still in the planning phase too, trying to figure out what we can do with that as a podcast. But we do want
Mhm.
to try and help out. Seeing like I'm a Texas native. I used to live in Junction, spent a little bit of time in Kerrville. Really grew fond of it. And Russell, he used to live in Texas. Spent most of his life in Texas. So this is our home. This is our community. We want to try and help out where we can. So yeah, as a podcast, he and I are going to try to figure out what we can do to help. And then, like I said, once I figure out, or once the guys and I've been communicating with have figured out what we're going to be doing, I'll share that information with Russell, and hopefully we can spread the word there and try and get some money raised.
Absolutely. So keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears peeled, and we'll be having more details to come. And I'd just like to thank you, Jim, for spending time with us. We appreciate all the information you've given. Appreciate you talking about the experiences there, what people are going through. Me personally, I'd like to give my condolences to the community there in Kirk County and anybody affected by the floods. Condolences, thoughts, prayers to all those that are dealing with the loss of a loved one. Special prayers out to Camp Mystic.
Yep.
Girls group there that lost a lot of young lives. So, it's just heartbreaking. So prayers out to those. If anybody needs anything, lines are open. Feel free to call, text. If you have my number, reach out to our social medias. We'll be there for anybody that's been affected, or anybody that needs help, anybody that needs to talk, that's going through stuff. I'm going to have open communication for anybody that needs it. So, but other than that, thank you for listening. We'll catch y'all next time.
This has been Wildlife Outdoors. Thanks for listening. Follow us on Facebook at Wildlife Outdoors and on Instagram at wild.life.outdoors. Let's go live life on the wild side.